When some people come into our lives, they change it forever. They might come out of nowhere or have been around all along, watching over us and stepping in at just the right moment with a helping hand or a wise word. The story of Abigail is one such tale, where a brave woman steps forward at the right time to save many lives with her intelligence. A long time ago, in ancient Israel, there lived an extremely rich man named Nabal and his wife Abigail. They resided in a place called Carmel. It was the season of sheep rearing, soon to be followed by a celebration. It was customary during this festival to offer food and alms to people all around. It was in this moment the lives of 3 people changed forever. One of them even went on to become the king of the entire country. David was a young man fleeing from the king of Israel. He was in hiding, leading a group of brave warriors. As they approached Carmel, David's men safeguarded Nabal's livestock day and night from enemies and wild animals. They expected that Nabal would reward their vigilance with generosity during the festival. So, David sent 10 of his men to speak with Nabal, leaving the terms of the reward to Nabal's discernment. But things took a turn for the worse when Nabal rebuffed them, denying any knowledge of David and refusing them to give anything. David was furious on hearing Nabal's response. He felt his goodwill and protection over the past days has been met with ingratitude. Meanwhile, Abigail learned of her husband's rash actions from her servants. Knowing her husband's wicked nature, Abigail took immediate action. She packed large quantities of food and provisions and rode out on a donkey to meet David and his men without informing Nabal. As David and his men advanced, ready for battle and vengeance, Abigail met them halfway. She quickly dismounted and knelt before David, pleading with him to accept her peace offering. Abigail acknowledged her husband's wrongdoings and professed her belief in David's destiny as a leader chosen by the Lord. She urged David to avoid the grave mistake of shedding unnecessary blood. She went on to say, "When the Lord grants you success and appoints you as a leader, remember your servant Abigail." Taken aback by Abigail's wisdom and her plea for peace, David thanked her for preventing him from committing a grave sin. He accepted her gifts and blessed her for her good judgment. Returning home, Abigail found Nabal indulging in a lavish feast, a clear sign that he had more than enough resources to share with David and his men, but had chosen not to. The next morning, Abigail recounted what had happened the previous day. Who was struck with paralysis upon hearing the news? 10 days later, Nabal passed away. Upon hearing of Nabal's death, David recognized it as God's justice. Remembering Abigail's intelligence and courage, he asked her to become his wife. Through her timely intervention, Abigail saved not only her own life, but also the lives of her household and servants, showcasing an unforgettable example of wisdom and courage. Let's take a deep dive into the story. The meaning of the name Nabal was fool. Back in the day, a name would often tell you a lot about a person's character, but it is not clear if Nabal was born with this name or if he got it because of the way he behaved later in life. Nabal was known to be a very rich person, but sadly, he was also very mean. Even though God had given him a lot, he was not willing to share his blessings with others, not even with those who helped him become rich in the first place. He was so mean that he even disrespected and insulted David, a brave leader of a group of people who was chosen by God to become a king. He even went on to question David's importance and refusing to give him and his men any help or hospitality. Now, turning our attention to David, he emerges as a pivotal figure in this narrative. Initially, he led a simple life as a shepherd, yet with time he evolved into a revered warrior in Israel, gaining recognition for his deep devotion and reverence for God. His charisma and courage earned him the affection and respect of the masses. However, his escalating influence invoked the fear and jealousy of the reigning king, who perceived him as a formidable rival, compelling David to seek refuge along with his loyal followers in the wilderness near Carmel, as a way to preserve their lives. In this critical situation, David considered approaching Nabal for assistance. However, Nabal's harsh response infuriated David. Just in time, Abigail learned of the impending conflict and hurried to meet David. Through her intelligence and diplomacy, she managed to calm David down, advocating for peace over violence. It goes on to show how important it is to have the right people guide us in tough situations. Let us also analyze why Abigail chose to behave this way. While Abigail had every right to harbor resentment towards her husband, she chose to stand for what was right and always think before reacting. Abigail had developed patience and resilience through years of tolerating Nabal's cruel behavior. Her attitude in life must have been the reason why God protected and honored her. She set her faith in God, believing Him to be just and all-knowing. Despite being extremely rich, she humbly referred to herself as a servant in her conversation with David. You can find the complete story of Abigail in the Bible, specifically in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 25. It's a story filled with life lessons that are still relevant today. It teaches us to be wise like Abigail, to be open to good advice like David, and reminds us to always think before we act, because every decision we make has consequences. So let's try to be wise in our decisions, bringing joy to ourselves and others, thereby honoring God and making the world a better place, just like Abigail did in the story. God bless. If you found value in this video, think about hitting that subscribe button, give it a like and share it to spread the joy.